Okay, I knew it was doing that the minute the music stopped. Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. My name's Peter Howard, at PA Howdy on Twitter. We do typically about a 3-hour show answering any questions, comments, or thoughts you happen to have on Dynasty or fantasy football in general every Wednesday night from 9:30 to about midnight. Again, depends how long our energy lasts, or the chat lasts, or the comments last, or how quickly we need to get to bed. And we don't have Dynasty Outhouse with us again this week because he's got better things to do, I guess, to be honest. But we do have Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies podcast and myself. So if you have any thoughts, comments, questions on the NFL or fantasy in general, put them in the comment box on whatever streaming platform you are watching us on. I was going to change the name of the show this week because repeat refers specifically to something I was looking at the time that I made it. But honestly, what season is it? It's season. I heard Zach call it on Twitter, so I guess we'll go with that. Season. Welcome. Hey Zach, how you doing?
Not bad. It's season. Everybody is excited about something. We've seen rookie mini camps and OTAs and things are happening. I messaged Russ earlier today because I saw Patrick Mahomes throw the ball 35 yards to, drum roll please, big Clemson wide receiver Justin Ross back on the field.
Yeah, Justin Ross has been lighting up my timeline as well.
I knew it would make Russ smile, so I sent him a.
Yeah, I think I saw it when he retweeted it, and also Jeff Miller complaining about how many people are going to retweet it, which was odd because it's what you just did. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. Glad I bought as a rookie. Any value increases are positive.
That's the one.
Have any hope for him this year?
Look, it's a wide open depth chart after Travis Kelce, and I think he's pretty good. So probably not. I mean, he was an undrafted free agent. So look, he's got as much chance of being good as almost anybody on that roster.
There you go. And look, it was a nice highlight catch. I know what to tell you. It was good. Positive is positive. But yeah, third round rookie pick, why not? You take a flyer on Justin Ross. That's fine by me. But if it's going above that, probably not.
I don't think it will. I don't think it can't. Can it? It can't.
No, I'm just getting hyped to find a new way to hype up Juju Smith-Schuster and to get disappointed yet again. So I'm looking. I'll find something.
Juju is a value right now, Peter. He is a steal.
I think Juju is in the Marcus Brown, Tyler Lockett conversation. It's just always a value. Just say those names when someone asks.
Yeah, but and I think Marquise Brown is probably even a better value at this point.
I think he's rising though because
he should be.
I don't know how targets work.
Yeah,
I don't know about that. I think the team's worse, and that's a problem. And they're going to blame Marcus Brown for not doing more than he's done before. It's like no.
But I think he'll do what he's done before, and that's fine. Like what he did with DeAndre Hopkins not there was nice.
Yeah, he's been on pace to be top 12 twice for 6 weeks in a row, and then faded both times, once because of an injury. But still, either way, it's just, like you say, always a fantastic value. I just think any increase because of Hopkins leaving is just, I hate it so bad. It should have already been higher, guys. That's not it.
A strange place I find myself where I'm in on at cost a lot of your guys. So I'm in on Juju. I'm in on Marquise Brown. I'm in on Rashad Bateman because you can get them, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th round in a startup, and it's like, I like it.
Let's have some Jacoby Myers hype. Everything will be fine. Thomas Benson, sorry, took a second there, but he was here at 8:06, so more on time than we definitely were, but that was my fault. Waza from Brazil. Waza to you too, Thomas. Brazil, that's pretty crazy when you think about it sometimes.
Pete's big in Buenos Aires. It's
I guess, I'm just a shit down there. 1 QB PPR, 12 team start, 7 rebuilding. Drafting Bijan and Mingo. Okay, well, you got a half right. Trading Bijan Robinson for 3 firsts, but only bad offer only got bad offers. Should I just keep him in a taxi and legally tank? If tanking is permissible by your league buy laws, it's always a way to go. I'm going to chase value. My team does what it does. So I don't intentionally tank, but I'm not going to tell you shouldn't either if you're just looking for value. And yes, the answer is keep Bijan Robinson if you don't get a good trade. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have a league where you can taxi squad players that you draft. My home league, actually, and I don't mind that strategy. If you earn the 101, you're probably not going to be very good again this year, but you have to understand that you're just donating to the pot. Like that's like you have to understand, like you're now one season
away that money.
Yeah, you're one season in the hole. So even if you win the next season, you know, you only half one.
Which is fine. If you got a plan, execute it, but you do have to wave goodbye to it. I would say also don't worry about it too much. Like in season, Bijan Robinson going to be scoring points and those trades will come because he's not going to fix your roster by himself. So I don't think he's going to make you like a playoff team by himself. He's not going to score 60 points a week. But by the time week 4 or 5 of Bijan Robinson being good rolls around, people will be interested in trading, and then you proceed with scoring fewer points.
And the interesting thing, Thomas, about your question is it's a start 7 league, so you are absolutely looking for hammers. You're looking for studs.
Like
and
even
so
3 is a little low.
Like, I know Peter kind of made fun of Jonathan Mingo in a start 7 league. He should absolutely be making fun of Jonathan Mingo. Like I don't ever see Jonathan Mingo being a top 18.
I know. I could see. I don't know how it works in your league, Thomas, but I could see him being a Gabe Davis. Like there are games where if you played him, absolutely killer, and then there are most of them are not. So I could see that working in a start 7, but how often are you going to make that gamble?
Yeah,
and that's his upside. So yeah, to Zach's point, he's much more tenuous in a start 7 league. Yeah, good point. Also, same league, start 7. Do wide receivers of Xavier, Hutchinson, or A.T. Perry have any value in betting? I don't know what you mean in betting. But in a start 7 league, those guys' upside is probably, like Zach was just saying, not what you're looking for. But I guess, again, at a certain point, for a 3rd round pick, for a 4th round pick where they go, you might end up getting a 2nd round pick for them later. So, you're not going to just not have them for nothing. But those roster spots are probably better spent on running back in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the handcuff thing. I don't know about Travion and Ty Chandler, but there are a whole bunch of backs in this class that could, and I talked about this a little bit with J Mike on this week's Dynasty Dummies. Peter, you and I have talked about this a ton. When you are roster constructing, the wide receivers that you are hoping on at the back end of your roster are really roster cloggers because very rarely do they end up being Adam Thielen.
Most of them take very fly, and you can be hyped about it. Like I'm rostering some Justin Ross, but like there's a very small select group. And honestly, Hutchinson and Perry are in mine, but I don't play in start 7 leagues. So again, there's more positive range of outcomes for me. And you have to balance that for yourself.
Yeah, and the running backs, like it doesn't take very much for one of those backup running backs if there's an injury to all of a sudden have a running back 1 week. Which it's valuable.
Like Mingo could do it every now and again, 7 weeks of the year, but you don't know when. Whereas the value of running back is you can't know when you're meant to start them. Again, they can suck or just not pay off, but it was a good start for to play them, and you're pretty confident in it, and that's what we're looking for. Yeah, sorry, I had Damian Pierce take that, but let's not. Open 24 hours. I like the logo on your thing. It looks very like the open bar logo. I like it. 10 team start 11, Superflex, tiered PPR, half point running back, full point PPR for wide receiver. That's odd. I don't think I've seen that before. Give ETN, get Mixon and Cooper. Yeah, Amari Cooper, I'm guessing. And that's his team. The wide receivers, running backs who catch passes are a little lower in this.
Yeah.
And ETN's strength is his receiving and his overall touch volume, which is going to come down a bit.
The problem to me with this, and like I like the idea of giving ETN and getting Amari Cooper, getting a wide receiver who's a little undervalued, but probably is going to see a bunch of targets. The only problem with this is getting Mixon. I don't think you get out of Mixon for anything, and you're hoping that he has a season. Like,
yeah, and I know there's a mix and height. He's the same thing as these other guys, but he's not. That's why he's lower. I think in a vacuum, even looking at your team, it's probably just ETN. Yeah, Mixon and Cooper might outscore him, but there's more to Dynasty than just that equation.
But that's a trade that
ETN could equal it.
That's a trade that I would look for. So when I think about players, I don't think about specific players. So like I have like groups of players. So I'm looking at players that are similar to, in my mind, Amari Cooper. So like Deontay Johnson. Yeah. So that type of player. And I'm going to go look to make this same trade with a running back that I like more and a wide receiver similar to Amari Cooper, who's undervalued but is still seeing targets. So that is how I would attack this, because I don't want Joe Mixon. As Joe Mixon was great last year in terms of like fantasy like total, but if you look at him throughout the season, it was literally 2 weeks made up half of his season. It was ridiculous, and it happened to be toward the end of the season, and people got all excited. And
do you have a running back in mind? I mean, Deontay Johnson's a great example of a wide receiver to target for a trade like that, but there are particular running backs you're looking at. Like my mind went to DeAndre Swift. I'm like, that's not. But
that's really a similar thing. Like in that league, Derrick Henry. Nobody wants Derrick Henry. He's still good. I think he outscores Mixon this year. I mean, it's that type of player that you're looking for. Even somebody like Aaron Jones, who I think has a little more juice left than Mixon. You know, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Even Cam Akers, who Cam Akers, like even it's a little bit more of a leap. I don't think he's going to have the elite season that Joe Mixon has had, but I think he maintains his value a little better than Mixon. Or J.K. Dobbins is another one in that same kind of ilk, where maybe you end up with a great player, maybe you end up with a player that you can trade. But that's kind of how
Chubb has slipped out the top 12 as well. And I think I'm not sure. High tier.
Yeah,
but I'm not. Najee Harris, like you were reaching at that.
He's already got Harris, and he's already got Connor, because Connor would be another one of those guys that is interesting enough to make a play like this. But I think you get a better receiver. But he's already got Connor, so. But that's kind of how I would attack that. Is I don't like necessarily getting Mixon, so try to go find another wide receiver, Calvin Ridley. Somebody like Amari Cooper.
Marcus Brown.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So
I guess what I'm asking is, would you go looking specifically? Well, you said you would go specifically looking for the wide receiver, then see what running back you could add on their team.
Yeah,
instead of the other way around.
I think I would. Although, if I could get a good or a better running back, and then figure out a wide receiver that is going to see targets, that is, I mean, I don't. It's people don't undervalue wide receiver, I think, as much right now. I think running back is where you're getting undervalued, and so
that's kind of what my thought was. But okay.
Every time I see, sorry, I don't mean to go back, but every time I see open 24 hours, I think of the Stephen Wright joke. He says, "I pulled up in front of a 7-Eleven and my friend is locking up." And I said, "I thought you were open 24 hours." He says, "Yeah, but not in a row." Sorry, that's all I can think of when I see open 24 hours.
There you go. Zach Linton, Uncle Piff. What's going on, gentlemen? Not much, just talking some Dynasty, man. Appreciate it. Reed Bryan, hey guys, any tips on how to keep a league engaged between the rookie draft and the preseason? I feel like we've had this question a few times. We're not the best people to ask. We're just naturally engaged and we leave our league to do what they do. Neither of us can miss much. Trades is probably the best way I can think of. If you're active in the trade market, that's going to excite other people, at least who you're trading with, who wants to trade. They're like, oh, well, Zach's always online. He'll answer a trade response.
And get a DM, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's a Slack, whether it's Discord, whatever your group can, whatever your league will, be on and respond to. And it doesn't have to be all fantasy football. A lot of the group DMs that I have they're great because it keeps the league engaged. It keeps you talking. And so I'm in the Harry Potter league that Russ does, and 70% of the stuff that comes through there are Harry Potter memes, or people are going to Universal or and you're sitting there talking about that sort of thing, and then football comes up and people talk, and so it keeps the fantasy football and the league engaged without cramming fantasy football down the throats of people that don't live and breathe it like we do. So
we've been making friends since we were first pushed into a kindergarten classroom and told figure it out, and you just do that. Just be friendly, or get a conversation going. I think that helps. Rambo, Dynasty theory advice. I don't know any of that. My team is getting better on a rebuild, out of a rebuild. Should be in a contender in a playoff spot, but I know it's not a top 3 team. I have 224 first, continue the rebuild or go for it. Yeah, I've got a similar situation where my team for the first time has finally turned around. And it's real tempting to just keep pushing all in. I've got 2 great running backs right now. But if I get good trades on those running backs, I'm probably still going to keep building. If I can monopolize the 24 draft class, I will. If my league forces me to keep them, I'll keep them and see what I can do. But I think always, I was talking with this on I'm talking with this. Geez, I mentioned this on my recent podcast, talking to the FF Buffalo, the Buffalo FF, the FF Buffalo Skylar. People, I think, connect value, going for value, with not winning. But the fact is that value correlates to points. That's the Adam Harstead, one of the first things I read him saying. It's like, if you're getting players that are more valued, mathematically, that means you should be scoring more points. You're not necessarily scoring less points just because you're playing for value. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. You're competitive. You're not a top 3 team. You can be trying to become a top 3 team and still keep focusing on value. Players that are higher rated, players that are going to be more valued down the line. Those things still make sense to you. And that's where my mind's at on it.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would go look at what teams have Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, CeeDee Lamb, and say, if I can get one of those players for 2 firsts, I'm going to do that, because I think that makes your team more competitive. Plus, it makes your team still competitive in your rebuild, and you still have a couple of bullets left in the chamber in 2024. So you get kind of the best of it. And that's kind of what you were saying, Peter, is figure out how you can accrue value, still score points, and continue to build your team. If you can do all 3 of those, Rambo,
ideally, it doesn't always work out, but that's what you're trying to do. And then you talk to Russ and he's like, oh man, it went badly, just make another trade, or you just keep moving forward, But you don't have to get it all right. Don't be afraid of making trades and then the value doesn't work out. The points don't come. You just try and make more moves. But yeah, it's an open dynamic process.
Or you throw one at Devontae Adams and one at Cooper Kupp and see how that works, because nobody thinks they're any good. And then all of a sudden,
10 teams who flex start 9, half-point PPR, 6-point passing touchdown. Give Lamar, Barkley, and a 24-second. Get Chase and Tua. Lamar, Barkley. You are getting Chase, and that is the rule. I think Lamar to Tua is fine. That's not what opens my eyes. It's a positional advantage of Barkley that's kind of nagging at me. Like, I want Lamar over Tua, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the difference is so great that it would stop me getting Chase. Barkley gives me pause.
Yeah.
I think it's still, simple life rules. Probably get Chase. It's Dynasty, right? But it's close. I don't know. Honestly, I'd flip a coin.
And that's and Stickman, your concern is the concern I also have. Is like, I think Tua is a great quarterback. I think he's a I say great. I think he's a 12 to 16, like QB 12 to 16. Like, he's a good quarterback. He's going to have weeks where he wins you weeks. He's able to support 2 wide receivers, but concussions really worry me.
Those are concerning.
And like, that's the real crux. Like, if it was like Tua-esque, like if it was some other quarterback that isn't
Dak,
if it was Lawrence, like
Lawrence definitely,
in that range, I'd be a lot firmer on let's take Chase. I mean, I know that, like, we love Barkley, but the community at large doesn't love Barkley. So you have Barkley when you make this trade, but man, I don't know that I would assume the risk of Tua, and give up Lamar and Barkley and the second to get Chase.
I've really got to change. I agree full-heartedly, Stickman. Probably we can't predict injuries, but that probably waved me off it. I got to change this banner. I wrote this like our first week, and it's the weekly grind with me, live every Wednesday in season, sometimes with Russ Fisher, often with Zach Reed. And I still like the cadence of that, but now it's just a lie. It's a fucking lie. If you two aren't here, I'm not here. So, like, I should probably change it. Jim Smith, is it better to draft Jordan Reed, Rashee Rice?
It's Jaden Reed is what he's talking about.
I know, but Jordan Reed's fun.
Okay, well, I mean, it made it better for you. Yeah.
In the second or third round, or running backs like Spears, Bigsby, Roschon. Here's the thing: Spears and Bigsby, Spears less so, but Bigsby's falling to the early third. Again, ADP, a rookie draft, you can just mostly ignore it, but it is worth noting that it's easier to grab him a little later in most drafts. Roschon too is falling mid to late second, I think, in most drafts, but you know your league better, so I'll take your values at it. Theoretically, running backs, we're after the first round, we're after the first few at wide receiver. I think it's better to grab the running backs. They have more immediate opportunity, they have more immediate value changes, and if we like them, why not? Jaden Reed is a really interesting prospect. Surprised by his draft capital, but I already noticed him having a few positive signals. I think it's been overly hyped up now. Like, he should go behind Marvin Mims. He should go closer to Cedric Tillman, in my opinion. And he's the one that, for very good reasons that JJ Zachariason mentioned him, it has more name recognition at this point. So for this question specifically, the running backs. Rashee Rice is also in that range, though. The Mims, Jaden Reed, and Rashee Rice, they're all of a tier. I'd rather have Rice than Reed, to be honest with you, just for immediate impact and team situation, if nothing else. But
I would rather have Rice than the running backs. For me, it goes Rice, running backs, Jaden Reed.
Yeah, I was going to say, but
if
you hadn't said Jaden Reed, like if this was Rashee Rice and Marvin Mims, I'd point out that I have both ranked above that running back tier.
Yeah.
And that's the way I go. But I hesitate because I know the value of running backs there. So that's the question. Reed should probably be behind that running back tier.
And you also have your running back tier completely backwards. So if you read it, Roschon, Bigsby,
Throw out all
Spears.
the shit.
Yeah, I get it. Just the way, I like to, I'm kidding, Jim, but that's how I would. The way I have them ranked, I have Rashee Rice in the first round. Like, I'll take Rashee Rice at mind. I'll take.
We've just given him ranks, tiers, and he got everything there. I don't think he'd mind that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I would take Rashee Rice in the first round. I'd take him at 111, 112. He and Mims, to me, are first round picks. And then I've got a couple of tight ends. and then Downs, and then you're getting into that Roshan Johnson, Kendre Miller, Bigsby, Tajay Spears, like that tier to me, and Charbonnet's actually in that tier to me too. Like I like that running back tier is kind of a glut, and then below that, it's funny you mentioned that Cedric Tillman is next to Jaden Reed, because Cedric Tillman is right next to Jaden Reed.
See, here's the problem. Our ranks are close enough for these last 2 years that we can only argue, like, I have Mims over Rice, and you'd be like, yeah, but I don't like me. Like, that's the argument.
They're literally
like Jordan Reed versus, like, it's too small.
Like, they're literally
too small.
Back to back.
Yeah, I have Mims over Rice, but again, I don't think he would let me get away with saying, therefore, I like Mims more. Like, no, same thing.
That's fine. Yeah.
You the man, Pete. Thank you. So is Zach, and so are you. Thank you very much. C4TZ30. That one. 12 teams who flex start 9. Was offered JT for Gibbs. Ooh. JT. I mean, Dynasty probably says Gibbs, I guess, in a vac. But no, I just give me JT, I think.
Yeah. I would. I mean, no offense to Gibbs. I think he's a very good running back. JT is a top 5 running back that I've scouted. I say scouted. Look at me. No, that I've watched.
Hang on. Was JT the same class? Yeah, Jonathan Taylor was the same class as Swift. So this is literally Swift in his rookie year for JT in his whatever it is, third, fourth year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically there's so many Swift comparisons. But I'd still probably take JT.
Yeah, and it's not
if your team sucks, I guess don't trade for running back would be the answer. But yeah, Gibbs, I guess. But JT in most situations. Yeah. TaylorMade, what would you do with Devontae Adams? I'd give him a handshake, maybe a meal. I'd like to pick his brain on a few things, to be honest with you. It seems like an interesting guy. I'm kidding, obviously. TaylorMade, I don't talk to people. I'm on a competing team. I'm worried about his... You should be. But mostly in terms of does he pick a black ball out the bag? If he's healthy, you're probably fine. He's probably going to put up a Devontae Adams-like season. The problem is the value's gone. After the points are gone this year, especially. But if you're on a competing team, you have to care about that a little less. You just have to take the final ride with good wide receivers. Like I went over the cliff with Antonio Brown and Calvin Johnson. I was rostering them that last year, and I knew I was risking it, and I didn't care. Because, it's hard enough to find the rookie hits that we thirst after every year. And, we get 2 a year that have 2 top 24 seasons or so, but it takes a while to figure out who they are. We're still debating the 2022 class, for example, and it's a year later. And those that are just locked in, those are the Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, that level of play, just like, I'm going to take the last ride. Unless you are completely out, like I miss, my team sucks, then you're probably just looking for the best trade.
Yeah, so I treat them like I would running backs, where if I'm in season and they're scoring points, but my team is not as competitive as I thought they were, I can trade them to competing teams. But if you're competing, you want them on your team. So it's the J Mike, where he talks about making a decision early on your team. So like sitting there and looking at, after 2 weeks or after 3 weeks or after 4 weeks, what your team looks like. If your team does not look like you're going to compete, but Devontae Adams is scoring, unload him to somebody whose team is up at the top and will give you, at least some value for him.
I think this is one of these aspects of Dynasty that can be hard to put together when listening to content, because we know Devontae Adams and age and context, but we don't get to adjust for this coming season nearly as well as redraft does. Because it would be fair to say Devontae Adams below a couple of those other top tier guys this year, and you're fading Adams. But in any random league, you don't get the choice. You can't just trade Adams straight up for Hill. Like no one's doing that in Dynasty. We have to. That's again where the value quotient comes in. You can't just trade him for a younger player like Devontae Smith. It's just not going to work. And so if you can't make that decision early, or you haven't made that decision yet, you're just taking the last ride, and what will be will be. Or you're trying to get out earlier, which is where, estimate your roster as you go and try and do it as early as possible as well. Not just week 3, but where's my team right now in the off season? Am I building or not? Before I even get to these type of decisions. Like I've got a 25-year-old wide receiver. Do I need to keep rolling value until I find a better team situation? Then maybe let a few age out of my team. Being earlier is pretty much the only dynasty edge left. Luckily, they still, people still be slow. So. Patrick, 12 team, Superflex, 1. Sorry, man. I'll get to the rest of your questions as soon as you type it. Sunday Surefire from Facebook. Wow, look at that. We got a Facebook comment. Nice. How many roster spots would Peter need to roster just not many, actually. He's on the select few. Like just in a regular dynasty league where you got like 5 to 8 bench spots. If I've got a deep wide receiver or a taxi squad, I'm rostering Justin Ross if I was managing people to draft him. What his ADP got kind of crazy last year, actually. Like he was taken in the second round by the time August hit of a rookie draft, but I had him in the third rounds. Yeah, but again, I'm increasingly I try to be relatively selective, especially with rookie lower drafted players like Keyshawn Butte this year. I can guarantee I'm not going to have any of him. He got into the second round real quick. I'm like, no,
second.
Yeah, immediately after the draft, he was that guy everyone was reaching on. That's after the tiers.
Wild. I'll take him like mid third, but no way I'm taking him.
Even in the third, I'm like, I'll probably take a running back. And so, unless it's every now and again, there's a Justin Ross, there's a. I want to say the other ones are just Adam Thielen, but it's not. There's plenty of misses I've taken shots on. You don't hit at a high rate, which is why I try to be fairly selective. The key with lower drafted players is you get to see something early before you go, oh, I don't care that they're lower drafted. Jacoby Myers, I don't care. To Adam Thielen had a pretty good year too, technically, depending on when his draft year is dated to, because he was undrafted in 2014, but he's listed as 2015 in a few spots. He showed us something before he actually got a full role the following year and actually bought out with Diggs and next. So, you don't have to wait till year 4. If you wait until year 4 to see something, then they're pretty much an outlier, even with lower draft capital. But you almost have a little bit of a time lag where you don't have to stuff all the favorite lower drafted wide receivers on your taxi squad in a rookie draft. You can wait to see how the offseason rolls up. Do they get targets year 1? That's really impressive for a guy drafted outside around 3, especially if they're undrafted. Do they stick on the roster spot through that offseason, which, we're getting late at that point, the following offseason, those actually become indicators or potential indicators for lower drafted players. So we have a little bit more time where everyone wants to be the smartest person. They're drafting Keyshawn Butte in that third round of the rookie draft. That's just going to be a roster clog. And so I want to be very selective with who I clog my roster with, someone that I'm willing to ride out that 2-year period before I really see anything. And there should be relatively few of those. Yeah. And most turn out to be Zach Pascal and Kendrick Bourne. They're good. They're clearly good, but they're never going to be that.
Yeah. So and to me, Justin Ross and Keyshawn Butte are a little bit different than the normal.
They are. Yeah.
Because again, like if
I drafted conference. Yeah.
Well, but not even. No, and it has nothing to do with all of the things that you look at. Because that's not how I look at things. But they happen to merge. Because for me, those two were in the top 5 wide receivers in their respective classes, just based on what you saw on the field, and then they fell with things that were off field. Ross was injured, and Booty had off field issues with dalliances in hotels, and so like to me, those are a little bit different because the talent I think is there. So
that's fair. Again, different processes, but he's still Zach's
similar,
still trying to be selective
results.
with how you have to be really good before you're
absolutely.
I mean, it's not just they potentially roster cloggers. The minute you draft one of those wide receivers, they're immediately clogging a roster spot, even if they eventually work out. That's what they're gonna do. Because there's lower expectation year 1 with lower draft capital, there's even less. You're not gonna get much out of them until you get something or never get anything. So
it's something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Is there is a value to having a roster spot open, like there to be able to add the rookie that hits in training camp, or to be able to add the running back who's behind a running back who got injured, or that sort of thing. So there is a value to actually having a roster spot.
I was wondering if I can answer the question directly. Like Justin Ross, where's the closest league that I roster him on? Status in all my leagues. I roster him right here. I roster him in Trade Addict 7 with Russ, actually. I've got 31 rostered players and Justin Roster's on it. And that's a regular league. It's super flex, and you start 2 running backs, start 3 wide receivers, start a tight end, 31 roster spots, and I've got Justin Ross on it.
How have you not traded him to Russ? I feel like that's
I'm letting the excitement build. Same way I've got. Well, you'd be surprised. Like I offered him JSN in that league because my team sucks. Still, I'm still building that roster. I was like, just give me the value of JSN now. Like, why wait? Well, I'll let you have your thing. And he offered me like a running back and a 1 first in 24. I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna wait till you get even more excited. Like that's not it for me. So you'd be surprised. Like Russ loves to trade, but he's sharp. He's no dummy.
That's true.
Alexander, did we just 12 teams with flex start 9. I traded Stafford and Cooks for Najee Harris. I like that. Lost in the finals. Current team is Burrow, Cousins. Best running back is Herbert. I feel you. Jefferson, Chase, Godwin, Deontay, Elijah Moore, and Michael Thomas. No guessing where you put your value. Everett is a decent starting tight end, really underappreciated. Is there a question, or is this just how am I doing? I like the trade if that helps, especially looking at your team. I'm assuming this is Dalvin Cooks, or is that Brandon Cooks? That'd be even better. Stafford and Cooks, even in a super flex for Najee Harris, I think that's really solid.
It's got to be Brandon Cooks because Dalvin is just singular Cook, just one Cook.
And that explains why he's talking about his running back group, the best being Herbert. Well, now the best is Harris, and you've got 2 really good starters, relative. At the running back position, already thick wide receivers, and your quarterbacks are still Burrow and Cook. Yeah, that's a win. I like that. Grant, what should a contender do with Dalvin Cook in Superflex? Yeah, again, similar to what I said with wide receivers. Like Zach just likened old wide receivers to running backs, and I think that's a fair comparison here too. Like if you're a contender, you're gonna have to see what you see. Unless there's someone in your league that's again lets you make those marginal adjustments because they're a big fan of Cook, so you can trade for James Conner plus something, sure. But as a contender, I think Cook's got more upside, so you're probably just seeing what happens.
So I would wait though until because Dalvin Cook is either going to be cut or traded. Like that's pretty much going to happen. Yeah, okay. And when that happens, I think he gets a little value bump because somebody will be like, "Oh, look, a team spent capital to go get Dalvin Cook."
What makes you say so definitely?
The way
I don't really have a
the way his contract is structured and the way the Vikings have kind of played things out. I believe he's going to get moved. If I go Google that, you come up with a whole bunch of Dalvin Cook resolution could be coming by the end of the week. Teams believe Vikings prefer to trade Cook. Like we're just at that point in the season where it's post June 1st. They can cut him and get out of a lot of his contract, but also a trade partner becomes a little more inviting. So
nice.
Which is soon, like tomorrow.
Just around the hair, I'm sure. Yeah. Still here. Hey, Thomas. Thanks very much for sticking around. Drew. Hello, fellas. My QBs are Deshaun Watson? Yeah, that's right. A. Richardson. Just any random Rich. I should stop this bit. Kyler Murray, Mike White. So that's it. Mike White and Jameson Winston. I don't think count. Neither does Andy Dalton, but I appreciate you. I think I have a QB by week 5. He has a lot of bye weeks in week 5. Any advice? Just started on QB for week. I mean, what are your options? You can try and make trades. But if it's a dynasty league, which is where we specialize, like I'm not changing my roster because of one bye week or one bye week crunch. I get that in best ball, something like one season redraft best ball leagues, something people keep an eye on. It makes sense. And there are strategies around it. Sometimes people stack them up just to get it out the way with, and you can win all the other weeks. But in Dynasty, I don't think you do a hell of a lot. I would say, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say you're wasting too many roster spots on depth QBs, but in a super flex, that's fine. So yeah, you're just going to start a non-QB in your spots there that week. That's the thing. I'm not making a player for a player like less. If you can tear up to or make a good trade that you would do anyway and gets you out of that bye week crunch, sure. I haven't broken down projections or bye weeks yet, so I don't even know whose bye weeks where just yet. Zach, anything else? Am I missing something there?
No, I think you're kind of spot on, but I also I'm a bad person to ask about this because I am never fearful of starting a position player in my superflex spot. I mean, just like quarterbacks that people were running out there last year, like Davis Mills and Matt Ryan. Like Davis Mills averaged 13 points a week. Matt Ryan was 13.9 points a week. Tannehill was 13.9. Like these are not, it's not like that's an insurmountable. That's like 2 catches and a touchdown. And all of a sudden you've got so I wouldn't waste trying to go get one of those lower tier quarterbacks just to fill a week. Like
I wouldn't move mountains.
Yeah.
And also, to be honest, you've got a QB2 problem if that's your problem, because Kyler Murray might not play for most of the end. Richardson might start. I guess you'd expect him to start, but maybe not. And also may well be struggling to start with. Whether he's good or not, that isn't an anti-Richardson take, but I don't expect him to walk on the home field and immediately have figured out how to be Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts. Like, that's going to be rough.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was trying to figure out if Richardson is a week 5, but no, Richardson a week 11. So you might be able to throw like a third and go get Gardner Minshew, and then you would have Indy's quarterback,
I guess,
in that week. But I wouldn't be spending to go get an actual starter.
I'm more likely to handcuff my quarterbacks in a super flex than I am my running backs, put it that way, even though both perfectly viable. But 10 teams start 2 QBs. PPR. Would you trade Devontae Adams and Wan'Dale Robinson for Ramondre and Juju? Devontae Adams, I assumed, but there are a lot of Devontaes. And Wan'Dale.
So, yes, and then turn around and trade Ramondre for whatever he's worth as a receiver. I
want Juju more than Wan'Dale. Devontae and Ramondre probably pretty. It's a young running back on wide receiver. That's pretty even. So I guess Ramondre and Juju, and then you try and flip Ramondre. Yeah.
But I would try to do that before the season. I am still dubious as to whether Belichick last year kind of got forced into playing Ramondre Stevenson all of the snaps, and he's not a guy who likes to do that.
I saw Rich Rebar out there reminding people about Ty Montgomery, and I'm like, I enjoyed those 2 games, actually, because we've been waiting for Ty Montgomery to do something forever, and that's fun.
So I went and just, for kicks, peeked through my 5 leagues to see who rostered Ty Montgomery or if he was on the waiver wire, and he's on my team in 4 of the 5. Yeah, well, I thought he was going to be a thing last year, so...
Bill, he's always going to find the way to ruin your fantasy team the worst and most painful. So just guard yourself against it,
hold on, don't skip that one. That one's a
Superflex 12-team PPR. Give Amon-Ra St. Brown and the 111. Get Garrett Wilson. Thoughts, fellas? I'm stuck on this one. I
think they're the same. I think they're very similar players. St. Brown, Garrett Wilson. So I'd keep the 111.
Yeah, I think I lean Amon-Ra St. Brown and the 111.
Yeah.
Again, this is not an anti-Garrett Wilson. He'll get there, okay?
Very good.
Amon-Ra St. Brown literally did it, and Wilson probably will do it. And that's a little different. But his rookie season was so good, I'm not asking too many questions. But if you're going to give me a late first to make the decision,
And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think they're like, to me, they're if you put them on the scale balances, and so the 111 tips it.
There you go. Benjamin Paul, if your running backs are Brees, Pollard, and Handcuffs, wide receivers are Olave, T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Tony, I've been warning you. Would you trade Tony for Montgomery? Yeah, I would trade Tony for Montgomery if I feel pretty confident about my season. Also, I'm lower on Pollard than most. I don't know why. Like, I can't make a great argument about it, except for the fact you just don't see that very often. A running back who works into the role later into his career, then has a really efficient season, and then just takes on like, it just feels weird. Like, it's a really random, it's really rare occurrence, and I'm just, it's like the New England thing. Like, I can't make a real strong argument against it without narratives, but it's not something I see a lot, and so I don't like it. And your wide receivers are thick enough. You shouldn't fear losing Tony, in my opinion, and you're getting running back help before you start a season where you're pretty competitive. I don't hate this at all. Yeah. Tony's probably got the value upside for sure, but I take Montgomery's points if you feel confident that you can use them.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just nodding, so I got that one right. That's what I'm taking. That
Lamar Miller's definitely going to be efficient when you give him extra touches.
Right. You know, that's that all the examples I can come up with are unduly like it didn't happen. I'm like,
I want.
He was really good last year. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And Dallas loves to run the ball when it can, I guess. But I don't know about that.
I love it. I love the fact that their coach came out and said we didn't run the ball enough, and they were like 28th in the league in terms of like run pass ratio.
Yep. Didn't move the ball enough. It's a simple answer that.
Yeah.
West Coast Chief at 12-team Superflex PPR grade my trade. Waddle and the 102 got Lamar and the 201. Superflex, I hate giving up Waddle, but yeah, it's Lamar. You gave up Waddle and a quarterback for a quarterback and a running back of some sort, probably.
It's like a C.
I was gonna try and like be more positive because you got Lamar, and I guess that's good. But apparently, you should have done this before the trade talks finished because I got better than that. Yeah, it's a C. Sorry, West Coast Truther, but you got Lamar, so it's not like you're terrible. It's not like you've hurt your team. You can't win now. Oh, you better rebuild because you got a young, great quarterback. It's fine. But I think Bryce Young and Waddle, I'd probably lean that side. Or if you want Richardson or if you want Stroud, I'm not going to argue with it. But, you know, you do you. Caesar, 12-team Superflex start 10. As a Kenneth Walker owner, would you consider drafting Charbonnet at the 112? Okay, a lot to say. Or possibly trading it. Thank you, guys. Click like on the video. Thank you, Caesar. Do you want to take this one first? Because I've been motor-mouthing it.
No, that's fine. So Charbonnet does not enter my mind in the first round. Yep. Full stop. He does not enter my mind in the first round. He is a fine running back, and Kenneth Walker is a home run hitter of a running back. Like I think that, what was it? I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like on his runs under 15 yards, he was averaging less than 3 a carry. And so like he is that Adrian Peterson, Nick Chubb style runner where like he may get 20 carries and 18 of them look just abysmal.
But then one goes for 50 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, those other two are just amazing. And so you're gonna look, I rostered Nick Chubb. You pull your hair out while you're watching those games, but at the end of the game, you're feeling okay about it. Charbonnet, again, nice compliment, but not worth spending the 112 on to me. If I am at the 112, I'm either entertaining offers or I'm looking around at the players I think will make my team better, the better players there. So I'm looking at Maybe Quentin Johnston fell. Maybe Zay Flowers fell. Maybe Will Levis is there. Maybe Rashee Rice is there. Maybe Marvin Mims is there. And that's what I'm doing in the back end of a 12-team Superflex. Or like I said, I'll field offers for it. If I can get a 24 first for that, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's run it back because chances are you're getting a better pick.
I'm on the clock. Sorry. Fourth round of a huge Nickelodeon best ball draft league in Dynasty. It's pretty cool. To the point, like I only have like 9 rookies ranked. I did a quick ranking just so I could find them easier when the tool comes up. Deuce Vaughn is there, and I'd probably lean running back. Part of the fact Nathaniel Dell, he's the deeper guy I'll willingly roster. Hutchinson and A.T. Perry are both on my list as well. Like I would have drafted them here. I expected Tank Dell to go earlier. I should still probably go running back, but the only running backs that I'm actually playing in a league full of shots, like they win best ball tournaments. I should not be in the league, frankly. They've taken all the running backs. It's Deuce Vaughn or take my favorite sleeper wide receiver. Like that's the situation. Like there's the only other running back left is like Dwayne McBride, who's he's a runner, he's a rusher, he's a good rusher, but like it's not exciting, especially in a league that doesn't emphasize the rush.
Yeah.
Like that's how I ended up with those fringe roster cloggers. But it's when all the running backs are gone. I'm still tempted by Deuce Vaughn. But anyway, Caesar, what I was going to say is I don't draft based on my team, especially in rookie drafts. I take the best player. Like that's the golden rule draft for value, trade for need. Draft the player that you think is going to score the most points the soonest or increase in value the most or steadily, or all those things. Like that's the rule. I think it's an Adam Harstad heuristic that Dynasty Outhouse says a lot, but I'm going to attribute it to Dynasty Outhouse because, he's on the show and I talk to him all the time. Whereas Adam Harstad is like a professional and shit. So he's got enough accolades. But if you want to feel better about this idea, by the way, listen to the Superflex Super Show. John Hogue is a big advocate for the common sense sounding, roster your own running back. And it's fine. It's not a huge edge not to do it. But even though it sounds like common sense, you're actually hamstringing your team a little bit by doing it too much. So what I would say is it's okay to adjust a player up a tiny amount because you want that confident or that you want to follow that common sense from John Hogue. To have your own RB2 and to your own RB1. That's fine. I think the 112 is too much of an adjustment up. Like, again, I have him in that thick tier. He's not that dissimilar to me to players I'll be taking at 204 or 205. And at the 112, you've still got a really interesting group of other running backs that I actually would want more than Charbonnet.
A-Chain, yeah.
A-Chain is often still there. And again, that tier of wide receivers we're talking about, that's slightly above the running backs. And I try to be really strict with not having wide receivers above running backs unless I think there's a clear difference. And Mims and Rice, those guys just look like better prospects for fantasy for me, despite the delay. So ultimately, my answer would be no, I wouldn't draft Charbonnet at the 112. I'm telling you, you could if it just makes you feel good. It's your team. There's common sense, and John Hogue can make it sound like I'm a complete idiot for not liking it more, to be honest with you. So follow the show. John's awesome, although we hate each other, obviously. But my answer would be no, but you should feel free to if you want. And again, it depends who's on the clock. Have those wide receivers been taken? Is it Dalton Kincaid or Zach Charbonnet? In which case, sure. Like what I would say is it's okay to move Charbonnet up if that's your preference, not mine. Because again, I game theory a little bit, but over those other running backs, to have him over Roschon Johnson, I think I don't do that, but you can if it provides you more comfort and it's your preferred way of playing Dynasty. You adjust him up in that tier. I wouldn't jump him a tier. So if Dalton Kincaid's a next best pick, it's fine. But if you've got access to Deuce Vaughn or Marvin Mims or Rashee Rice, I would lean that way. But it's close enough. I'm basically giving you a pass. Like you can do what makes you feel comfortable. You know what you're doing though, right? You're hamstringing your upside for the safety of having the guy who might win the job or might have the job because of an injury or might be better in the job because we really don't know in that situation. Was that too long? I feel like that was too long. I basically just said what Zach was saying anyway, but there you go.
You look good,
Chris. Thank you. Chris K. 7-Eleven was a part-time job.
See, not in a row.
What are your ideal roster settings for a Dynasty League? And mine's real simple. I like vanilla. I like PPR, obviously, but half point PPR is fine. I like Superflex. I actually prefer Superflex these days, but it doesn't make the decision for me. Like if it's a 1 QB, I'm not going to say no. I like 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a couple of flex spots. Like I'm very, very vanilla. I don't require a lot because I don't want to have to readjust my values every time I look at a trade offer, essentially, or decide how to make a move. But the real answer is it's who's in the league. I'll play in a standard 1 QB, 2 tight end, 4 running back league if it's got people that I enjoy playing with and that I know, and that again, that group chat's going to be going, and so it's going to be an active league and it's going to be fun. I'll play it. I don't care.
You stole my answer. You stole my answer. My ideal settings for Dynasty are a league that has Peter and Russ Fisher and Leo Pasiga and Bob Gilchrist and J Mike and Shane Manila. Like that's for me. It's the people. It always is.
We should start that league. There you go. That's
it. We've done a thing, Peter.
Thanks, Hutch. Sorry, Hunter. Thank you, Hunter. I saw H and immediately went to Hutchinson. I don't know why. That's not a normal transition, but thanks, Hunter. Legend. 12 teams start 9, 1.5 tight end premium. I really don't like the extras that we give to the tight end premium, but it's fine. I'll play in that league too. If I like the people, it's fine. In my league, everyone way overvalues tight end. Okay. To the point it's a struggle to even attempt to trade for one. I'm just coming out of a rebuild and need tight end. What do I do? Well, the real answer is going to have to look over your roster, see who's where and what's what. But I can give you a few ideas off the top of your head. Tight end's a big breakout candidate for 2023, looking at breakout trends. I'm breaking it down in a video series at the moment. We have seen fewer tight end breakouts than we should. We've seen more repeats, and it's going to come at the expense of those returns that have happened over the last few years as well. The ideal is a sophomore tight end who did something in his rookie year. That's the common breakout. So you've got Greg Dulcich. But there are a couple of others, like people like Daniel Bellinger with lower draft capital, which has actually been underperforming recently as well at the position. So it's not terrible. It's not my guy, but it's not terrible. I even like rostering Isaiah Likely behind Mark Andrews. I don't know why. I can see no path to opportunity, but I think he was good enough as a college player, good enough in his rookie year. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but Kobe Fleener has a top 12 season. Anything can happen. And there's also a guy behind Travis Kelce that makes me feel real awkward. Don't roster elite backup tight ends. Don't. But Noah Gray has lower draft capital and is playing in a career year, which again has been underperforming in terms of breakouts, and apparently was above the top 36 finish last year somehow, some way. So yeah, for nothing, that's the type of player you're looking at because no one will give you anyone with actual value in a decent trade. Yeah, you can go for that. Outside of that, there are very few tight ends that matter, so things simplify a little bit. Kittle is often the easiest to trade for with that upside because people have him below TJ Hawkinson, but you need tight end value in a league like that to actually start making offer. You have to put Hawkinson in a trade and offer a second. I traded Goddard in a second for Kittle, for example. Like, you need that power, especially if they're valuing them highly. So that's probably not an option. But what else does your league value? Like, do they value those quarterbacks a little bit differently than you? Maybe you can find an edge trying to trade some, like, who's overvalued at quarterback a little bit. We talked about Sam Howell having limited potential in a super flex. If you traded Sam Howell for a tight end, that might seem like an overpay to someone in your league. So you really have to try and find someone you think is overvalued so that you're overpaying for the tight end position in a way that's not really overpaying. That's probably too vague, but yeah, that's my speech. Zach, what do you do?
I think the easiest way to do that in this league is to trade for early seconds and just hammer Laporta, Mayer, Kincaid, and then if you get down into like the late second, early third, there are a couple guys that are fine down there. Schoonmaker's fine, Musgrave's fine. I would take Tucker Kraft ahead of those two, but there are enough tight ends in this rookie draft that if you go to whoever has the 201, 202, 203 and see if you can get into a couple of those.
That's a really smart idea too. Target the pick so they don't necessarily think they're giving up a tight end. That's a good way. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah,
very sneaky. That's what we do.
Yeah. Sneaky. Yeah, I tried that first. West Coast Chief, welcome back. 12 teams full flex PPR. Grade my trade. Geno, A-Rod, Lamb, Barkley. Get Burrow, Judy, Fournette, and a 24 first. Geno's a little undervalued in Dynasty, but it's Dynasty, and you're getting Burrow, so I'm not going to shake a fist at it. Aaron Rodgers, you're giving away 2 quarterbacks for it, though. That's a little heavy. Lamb and Barkley, which I prefer over Judy and Fournette. Man, the first doesn't make up the difference. I think I'm on the Geno side.
Yeah, which is
I thought I was going to go the Burrow side, but no.
I'm with you. Like, it's close-ish. Like Burrow is really good. Like he's one of those top 6 or 7 quarterbacks.
And here's why I can't see a way this is good even for a building team. Because a building team might say, to hell with it, Burrow is the chief asset, and you're targeting value, and it would make sense. But here's the thing, you're trading away Lamb and Barkley, who you could get multiple firsts for as well, which means you only have Burrow. And now you've pushed all your value, or a lot of value, I'm assuming, of the overall balance of value on your roster into one thing. And the only thing you can do with it is to trade it out to get more, which means you're just going to end up, and you're not going to get the same. If you traded Lamb and Barkley individually and then A-Rod, you're going to get more. You're just going to get more than what you could get for just trading Burrow. And so I think even if you're just focusing the premium asset here, which is Burrow, I don't think it works. And if you're a competing team, I think Geno and Burrow doesn't outscore that combined on your roster. And Lamb and Barkley, I definitely think outscore Judy and Ford. So I don't see a direction where this is going to improve it. Unless you're just a big Bengals fan, you just want to roster Burrow. But again, you're probably pushing too much into one pot there.
Yeah, I'd see what I could do in terms of Barkley, Geno Smith, and a piece to get Burrow, rather than give up everything, than give up Lamb. I think I would. This is a big trade with a lot of pieces, and I think because you have all of the pieces, it's easy to like leak value, and I think that's what happened. Like I get Burrow. I said Burrow is a top 6 quarterback. Burrow's probably a top 5. Like to me, it's got to be Mahomes, Allen, Hurts in whatever order you want, and then probably Herbert and Burrow. So he's top 5. Like, he's legit. I'm not knocking Burrow, and Burrow is the piece on the other side that you want. Like the Judy is fine, Fournette is dust. The 24 first is fine, but Burrow is the real crown jewel of that. And so I would try to put a package together to get Burrow and see if I could leave Lamb out of it, maybe even Aaron Rodgers out of it, and try to get, Burrow for Barkley, Geno Smith, and a piece.
Yeah, I think that's solid. Sorry, I'm adding more running backs to my draft queue. Same league for both Lamar and Burrow trades.
I mean, I like adding Lamar Jackson and Burrow to your team.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
I'm not sure about what you gave up to get them and how much of a run. It depends. I guess it depends a little bit on the rest of your team. Like if you're still stacked up and you just threw them 2 top 8 quarterbacks, like, yeah, let's run it. But
all right, hit the like button, fellow patrons. Appreciate your West Michael Henry, 12 teams who flex half 1.5 tight end premium, 1 point PPR, all other positions. Is that Justin Herbert or Khalil? Herbert or Chris Olave, and it's got to be Justin, right? Chris Olave and Russell Wilson, Jordan Love. I mean, Justin Herbert. Again, this feels similar to the Burrow thing. Like Wilson's going to have a better year this year. By the way, breaking news. I don't think he's as terrible as we saw last year. Jordan Love's terrible, whatever. And Chris Olave is a premium dynasty asset. I would say there's plenty to be excited about on the Olave Wilson Love set, but you're not giving up nearly as many top 12 assets. You're giving up one, Olave, instead of 3 in the last trade. Right. And so, yeah, I'm more fine pushing that value into Herbert and saying, be hell with it. I'm just going to have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. JB wrote a Hurts Burrow Smith stacked first place last season, but now wondering if I should break a piece off to diversify and hedge. I tend not to think in those terms, but I get how they help. Should I tear down for AJ Brown, I assume, and a pick, or a pick and a player, or just run it back? Okay, a lot to break down here. What are your first thoughts? Hurts, Brown, Smith. He's got the Philadelphia stack, which is definitely an awesome stack to have. What do you do from there?
I'm not averse to having that stack, but I'm also not averse to trading. You say trade down, tier down from AJ Brown. So maybe tier down in terms of value, but don't tier down in terms of production. Mm-hmm. So again, like if you could tier down to like Tyreek Hill and a pick. Well, no,
I'm with you.
Yeah. That's a legitimate thing to do, and it has nothing to do with the fact that you have a stack, Jay. But the fact
value is value.
Yeah, the fact that you can get the points and still be building your team. I don't mind doing that, but I'm also not averse to sitting there going, look, I got Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith, and I'm going to roll you. Like I'm not. That's okay.
I'm just going to roll you. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's fair. I think of the 3, Smith is the one I'm more likely to trade, and that doesn't seem like a natural trade down. I mean, he's a young top 12 dynasty player, just finished in the top 12 for the first time. But like AJ Brown's in that CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle tier, but he's older, and I find less people interested in him for that reason. So you could go even further to Zach's point, go get Hill plus. I think that's smart. But I would expect
Diggs plus.
Oh, Diggs. Awesome.
Yeah. Those are guys who are going to score big time, but aren't valued quite in that same tier.
I would definitely consider those moves, because getting out of Brown for that is not even getting out. That's just staying in. But I would suspect if someone in my league is going to give me a trade I think or you think is just exorbitant, a great deal no matter what, it's probably on Smith. You're probably more likely to find someone that really, if you have an Addison Hayes in your league, because he will pay up DK Metcalf plus a first for Smith because he's a young top 12 player. And that's not a bad idea. Like that's not an anti-Smith take. You should hold that value. But then you're diversifying, you're getting out the stack if that matters to you, which it doesn't to me overly. And you're doing the similar thing, but I think more people will be interested in it just because he's younger. And I don't think that's right necessarily. I think AJ Brown is more likely to be a top 12 player than Smith is. I think Smith is the one less likely to maintain top 12 production if both healthy, kind of a thing. But either way is fine. Hurts is the only one I'm like, nah, I'm probably just keeping that. Probably just keeping that. But those are some thoughts. And again, to Zach's point, I don't think you feel a need to do it, but you can explore good value. You can always be exploring good value trades. Mims, my number 2 ranked wide receiver. Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you, Jesse. It's nice to have some confirmation bias roll my way, because I'm out here on a limb saying things about players I don't even watch play. It's nice to have someone who knows what they're talking about. Say it too. No, seriously, because I'm like, I don't know. It's on a spreadsheet. I read it. We'll see. Addison won. That's
now you're speaking my language. I'm
just gonna say I don't like the JSN hate, but I like everything else about that.
Yeah, JSN. No, but I told you this. They came out when I was watching the film. They were neck and neck, like even film greats. And then to me, if they're even, it's. I'm breaking ties to where they land, and I think Addison has a clear path to being a wide receiver that I want to roster and play earlier.
All right.
So,
Grant, how are you feeling about Rashad Bateman and Brandon Ayuk? Pretty good. I mean, at this point, they're that deep class of dangerous players that we could call sleepers if there was anyone out there who didn't know everyone and everything. Like, they don't really exist anymore. But the players people take up, we run a what's the word? We chicken race towards each other, right? We play chicken. Like, I'll take him in the 5th round. I'll take him in the 4th, and it gets stupid. That's what happened with Brandon Ayuk a couple seasons ago.
Debo for
Ayuk
life.
still held close to value, because again, if you don't do it pretty early in your career, the chances of you doing it a lot in the future become decreasingly small. But he's still a really good player with positive signals, and the context mostly excuses it. So I'm pretty happy at getting him at value. Rashad Bateman is the one who's a little more questionable, because I think people misread last season and were then disappointed, so his value fell exorbitantly. I don't want to trade a first for either, but I'll make up the value of a first with a second and another good player to roster them and take that chance. I started answering the question before I finished it, but hold Bateman and hope for more pass-happy offense. Yeah, Baltimore's going to pass more. It's not going to become Kansas City, but it's going to pass more. And Brandon and Bondi Ayuk and a first to tier up. These are all just should I make good trades? And yes, you should make good trades. Ayuk and Bateman are below. It depends who you were targeting in that, but if you can get anywhere close to players that don't have those kind of questions on, if you can go get a Tyreek Hill and you're a competitive team, you friggin' do that. Cooper Kupp and you get a plus because he's old, whatever. Make good trades for sure. But I think they're pretty well valued. Bateman's the one who's a little undervalued because you get him for like a first and a second and a running back, and I'm all in at that price. I've traded a 24 first a few times because I just want to roster him. But you should try not to trade actual first for those kind of players because they are risky propositions. Rondale Moore is actually a cheaper version of both, by the way. So, like, I like Rondale Moore in the same value. They're young. I think there's positive signal. But you have to kind of squint and ignore the position rank and say, well, this was because of that. And when the minute you start doing that, it all enters a similar clump for me. And Rondale Moore, like, I don't know if anyone remembers Rondale Moore at this point. Jeez.
I remember.
Me and you, Zach. But yeah. And generally you just hunt value in the players that are cheapest on that list. But I feel pretty good. And like, you're holding both unless you get a really good trade. And you should explore good trades because throughout this offseason, what's left of it, and then the season, there's going to be bubbles of remember how good Brandon Ayuk was per game. And Rashad Bateman was off to a way too efficient start in 2022. I'm waiting for someone to start tweeting out about how efficient that was without pointing out that wasn't going to maintain if the season played out. Because that's when the value window will close. That's when you'll have a good opportunity to trade them away, or you can stop trying to trade into them at a lower value. But that season will come before the season gets here. So people are going to be talking about the efficiency both had through certain stretches because they're good players. Yeah. Hopefully that answers some of the question. I like this idea. Go get a first plus or add a first and go get CD, go get Amon-Ra. If you can get anywhere close to that tier, you do that. I like boats. Maybe your boats are fun, but it's all fun until someone loses a top 12 wide receiver because of the maybe. Mm-hmm. I tried to turn that into something, but it didn't work. At TK, 12 teams for flex PPR start 11. Give Kenneth Walker and Dameon Pierce.
No, Kenneth Walker for Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, I kind of. Yeah, I screwed that one up. Give Ken Walker for Dameon Pierce on the 24-second. I like this actually. I'm kind of in on Pierce at his value. Like he's too low. Probably Walker has more value no matter what happens this year, to be honest. But in terms of points, I don't know you're giving up that much.
I would rather have Walker.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I just want to be on a hype train for Dameon Pierce because
you missed it.
No one likes Dameon Pierce. No one likes him anymore. I know, and I was on that. Like people were trading first for him. I was like, don't. But now he's like,
Yeah, but he's fine. But they added Singletary. It's not a great offense.
He's limited for what he is.
Yeah,
he can't. He doesn't have the upside of Walker.
Ken Walker's limited also, but they're limited in a similar way. And Ken Walker is a much better
version of it. Yeah.
And I think honestly, on a much better offense. I mean, you look. So that's true. Geno Smith with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba with Ken Walker in the backfield. Then sorry, I don't mean to sell Will Dissly short, but that's that offense is pretty good.
No, I think you're right. If that was a first, it'd be an easy Dameon Pierce trade. But to your point, you're probably never going to get that. A second, it's not quite enough.
This is Charbonnet panic.
Yeah, this is
panic at the Charbonnet! Exclamation points, like Panic at the Disco, but not.
It always makes me jittery. I don't know about you. I can't drink it or red wine. So, Hunter, if tight ends were not required in your Dynasty League, how many would you still be considering? 2. No. 4.
Yeah. No. I wouldn't. So no, I would not. I would not roster Pitts if tight ends were not required, because I think his value goes out the window, and then you're expecting him to score. He may score points. He's good enough to score points, but that's where I'm. I don't want to make that.
He could be one of those guys.
I don't want to make that bet if I'm not required to have tight ends. He's fine.
No, that's fair. That's entirely fair. Evan Ingram, I mean, but he can still be good and not.
Think about how good he will have to be to outproduce the wide receiver, the wide receiver or running back that you're going to get.
Yeah, you have to be
to replace him. Yeah. It's got to be a stud. So not very many.
That's fair.
Not very many.
I think 4 is pushing it, to be clear.
New Zealand. We are international, Peter.
I know. That's because no one in America or England want to listen to whatever we have to say. Hi guys. That's a joke, by the way. I really appreciate that you're here. Hi guys. I'm from New Zealand, and I had my first Dynasty draft last year. Oh, that's awesome. I hope you're having fun. Hope you're enjoying it. Not that I'm responsible for it, but I just hope those things. I didn't do enough homework. No one does, especially for your first. I had 10 deep. I had 20 rosters, 10 orphans, 10 startup drafts, and I was like, I should probably figure out what I'm trying to do. My quarterbacks are Mac Jones, Jordan Love, and Bryce Young. I mean, I'm assuming it's a super flex. 12-team, half-point PPR. I also have Dalvin Cook. To be fair, none of that is terrible. That doesn't mean you have a bad team or you didn't do enough homework. It's about what the rest of your roster looks like. You got to find balance. If the value's not there, it's somewhere else. And if that's true, then you're good. And if not, you still got quarterbacks in the super flex, so you can make moves. And Dalvin Cook, a lot of people went in on him last year, man. People are going in on him this year. It's hard. We're talking about Ken Walker. We're talking about even Derrick Henry. Dalvin Cook's more talented than everyone I just mentioned. Someone might argue with me with Derrick Henry, but I argue with the point. I would immediately default to the catches argument, to be honest with you. But generally, Cook's special. Very few players have that level of upside in that balance with that short draft capital. So yeah, it's an easy mistake to make, especially if it's your first Dynasty League. I wouldn't beat yourself up too hard, is what I'm saying. But yeah, it's rough. And Zach has broken the news that he's definitely being traded or cut this year.
Well, no. So if I'm looking at this team, how far off am I? If I'm trading Mac Jones, what do I have to put with Mac Jones to get Russell Wilson? Because I think Russell Wilson scores. Yeah. If I have Jordan Love, what do I have to put with Jordan Love to get up to Daniel Jones? Because I think Daniel Jones is going to be a bet. If you can do that, if you can. And
we talk bad about Jordan Love, but people like him. People really see the upside, and he wasn't terrible in college. And he's played behind Aaron Rodgers, and the team's all in. There's reasons we could be wrong, and you can definitely find someone to
or Kirk Cousins. How far off are you from Jordan Love to Kirk Cousins? Yeah, and so I think that look, we all screw up our first Dynasty League. Like that's what we do. So my first Dynasty League, I
For
had
sure.
so my first
I
Dynasty
screwed up
League,
my last one.
I had the 112, and on the turn, I took Drew Brees, who subsequently retired like 3 years later. Like he was 3 years later and he retired. And I took Adrian Peterson, who got suspended for the entire year that year. So like, okay, so my first two picks are nothing. And like I happened to I also released Mike Evans. Like I drafted Mike Evans. I released him like halfway through the year. I was like, he's not doing much. I want to roster Isaiah Crowell or whatever it was. And the only thing I did to redeem myself was late I drafted Jarvis Landry, who became a really good, because it was 2015 that we had our startup. So he was like okay as his first year, but then he ran off like wide receiver one seasons forever. And then I also had the last pick of the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, was Travis Kelce.
Oh,
and that really helped.
I said that was your team. And again, not to sound like Russ Fisher from the Dynasty Trades podcast, but the Trade Addicts podcast, have fun, man. You get, if your team is as bad as these quarterbacks, you get to experience rebuilding. I mean, the point of it is to have fun. And trust me when I say, like, I screwed up the last one. I'm out here doing a live stream. Last draft I did sucked. And it's fine. Again, if you're playing for money, you've got different stakes and different emphasis. And I can play in those leagues too, to be honest with you, not to flex. But I'm mostly playing to have fun. And you've got an opportunity here to try rebuilding. If you have any questions, we're here every Wednesday. Zach and me are both on Twitter. We're happy to talk all the time. Well, when we're available, we'll respond. If you got any questions, man. So, yeah, you're good. Have fun. Join in. I'm really glad you joined the party. You suggested a trade. Am I meant to suggest trade?
No, I just looked at that and was like, this is
Kyler
what I
Murray.
would do to try to, like, Kyler's a
that would be my first move. If you're trying to build from this point, you've got an injured quarterback who's top 5 potential. You've got a plethora of, like, go look at the Kyler Murray team. If he's competitive this year, he might be interested. If you give him Mac Jones and Jordan Love, might well jump at the chance to definitely have his QB2 spot fixed, even though, as Zach said, that can kind of be overvalued. And you've got, already you're building. Already you're looking better in 2024, even though that's a million years away. Well, technically, but you know what I mean. Kyler Murray would probably be the first step I'd go looking at. And they might say no, but that's fine too. Chicago Scott. I've been trying to unload Trey Lance for some time. Yeah, I think he's in a hold pattern at this point. Like, we're going to need to see some points. That's where we're at. We're going to need to see him get the job, score some points, and then we can make decisions. At this point, especially if you can't get a trade for his current value, I think that upside's worth holding on. So, yeah, I'm probably just holding. Or, I'm just saying, I was out. Not really. I don't do rookie quarterback takes, but I was. That's same questions I've got on Anthony Richardson, to be fair. But anyway, I'm not going down QB take alley. Any suggestions on deep league stashes to either buy low, buy now on a rebuild? Rookie quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, off waivers. Again, it tends not to be the way I think, but I know what you mean. And again, to New Zealand, JKS's question, if it's a super flex, Kyler Murray's on the top of my mind. I can't always get it done. There's not always a trade. But that guy with that upside that's discounted right now for teams that might be more interested in points, like that's the first trade offer I send. Outside of that, it's starting to, go for value and go for picks, but that's not what you're asking about. But Kyler Murray's at the top of my list in the Superflex draft. I also have a sheet that looks through different positions, and I guess wide receiver is where we start. I've got Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Marcus Brown, and Josh Downs, my top 4 values relative to DLF ranks. Relative to ADP, DLF, if you don't just want to trust me, which you definitely should not, you should take in other opinions. The most missed drafted players, according to DLF consensus, Jalen Waddle, Quentin Johnson, and Hunter Renfrow, weirdly. So that's like at pick 274. And AJ Brown, top 4 values. And so those are the players I go looking at. It's Waddle, Quentin Johnson, and AJ Brown. Actually, in startups or in just regular leagues, if rookie drafts make this awkward because the players just acquired them, but both Zay Flowers and especially Quentin Johnson tend to be a little undervalued because everyone's in a holding pattern and the 2 favorites have already gone above them, so they were just kind of stuck with who was left. And so I think they're interesting candidates as well. But you're talking about sleepers and stashes, which is a very different question. A wide receiver, I'd say like, Romeo Doubs.
Sleepers and stashes, Jalen Waddle. Like what?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't approach like who's the cheapest guy. Like they don't know how to work out a lot. I want to go find people that people are wrong on, not that shouldn't happen, if you know what I mean. So I think Romeo Doubs is the closest I've got off the top of my head. It's a little double downing on the Christian Watson dislike of some of his stats, but he was significantly impressive when he was healthy last year. And Christian Watson's rise directly times with Romeo Doubs becoming unavailable. Team's a little rough. It's going to be a rough season, but in terms of value expectation from where you're getting him, I think Romeo Doubs stands out pretty well. Who do you have?
Well, so you mentioned Rook. Well, for some reason my microphone is doing some funky things tonight. I don't like it. He mentioned rookies. Like once you get down in the place where you're looking for stashes, especially in a deep league, like man, rookies are kind of, if you're not looking at running backs, then I think you're doing it wrong. So it's like, I guess like Chase Brown and Eric Gray are 2 guys that I quasi like who have potential to fill in Brown with the Bengals and Gray again in the event of an injury break glass with the Giants. I think Stetson Bennett is an interesting. I know he's a quarterback and he's 200 years old and everyone's going to have the memes about him retiring, but that to me is at least moderately interesting. There's been some buzz on Clayton Tune potentially starting for Arizona a little bit this year, and if he gets a start or 2, then you can potentially trade him for more than what you got him for, which is nothing because he's probably on your waiver wires. So like that sort of thing. I know that we mentioned today Justin Ross.
Okay, got it.
But Justin Ross is potentially on your waiver wire because he was injured all year last year, and he's just starting to get a little hype in OTAs. So like that's the type of player that if you're talking stashes, that's what I'd be doing. And again, running backs.
Yeah, if I'm sending trades, because they're probably rostered, it's like Trey McBride, who I didn't expect for a lot from in his rookie season, so I'm still interested in, and the person rostering might be disappointed, and Rondell Moore, who I mentioned earlier as well. If we're talking rookies, especially deep, we're talking running backs, tight ends. So Tank Bigsby, Evan Hull is an interesting name, so Sean Tucker, and Deuce Vaughn. Those are running backs going outside the 150 picks that I'm a little bit higher on than most. But I will take a few shots, and we've mentioned them today, actually. A.T. Perry and Xavier Hutchinson. I'm grabbing them if I've got no running backs left. That's where I go, unless Tank Dell's available. Again, a player that's already in the league but might be waiver wireable to some, James Robinson. He keeps standing out to me. So,
do you? And I've got DLF's Superflex May ADP pulled up. And if you scroll all the way down, if you scroll all the way down to, and I just had it and now I've lost it.
I've got it.
Around, no, I've got it pulled up, but I'm trying to find my place. This is tremendous radio. 225th overall was Tyler Higbee, who was the tight end 6 last year. Was the tight end 6 last year. Like I know that people are disappointed that he didn't ascend to Travis Kelce when I was singing Eleanor Rigby saying I don't pay up for mid-tier tight ends. But now if he's going at 225th overall in the startup and you can get a tight end, a top 10 tight end for that, that to me is a value.
Dalton Schultz was top 12 as well last year, I think. He's probably pretty low if you're interested in that kind of thing. But anyway. EJD, 12 PPR, 2 QB start 10. Need a tight end. Offered Fairmouth, Michael Carter, and Mooney. No, keep Fairmouth. Oh, he
was offered. Like, yeah, if you were offered Fairmouth for those guys, then do it.
Sorry, this trade twisted my mind around. You're getting Fairmouth for free. Do that. Like that's. And don't get me wrong, Carter had a pretty good potential, and Mooney is a really good wide receiver. But Fairmouth, you should definitely do that. I'm loaded at wide receiver. I'd be really excited to take that trade. So I was just looking. Where is Schultz? Yeah.
I don't know, but this is my favorite question of the night. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you guys coming on. I would say you do, yes.
Maybe.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'd trade that for a second.
Anyway. Trey Lance is my QB3. That's a pretty good QB3 to have, to be fair. And I've been trying to unload him for some time now. The best offer I've received is 2 mid. No, not 2 seconds. You keep it in, especially in a super flex. If it's not a super flex, sure. Would you do this deal? Really appreciate you guys. Thank you. No problem, Chicago Scott. And I would say if it's super flex, no. If it isn't a super flex, then yes. That's literally the dividing line. That's nowhere close in the super flex. And it's pretty good in non-super flex. I'm assuming it's a super flex.
Yeah. I mean, why else?
I've got a lag here.
You do, but you look good. Well, how many sheets do you have open right now, Pete? All of them.
Now I have none. Langdon. I currently have a young competitive team, all in their primes. That's awesome to hear. Would you trade DK for Devontae Adams and a 24-second? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would. But
if I want the higher expectation,
what for Adams than DK
this year for sure?
Yes, I think so. But again, you're not.
That's the question. If you think Adams finishes higher, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I do.
You're giving up some years, but hopefully you're getting points. I don't know. I put them too dissimilarly, but if pushed, I'd probably say Adams. More targets, less six-pack, more targets. Although I'm sure they both probably have six-packs. JB in a 12-team, 1 QB, 6-point passing touchdowns. Start 10. Do you think you'll have any chance with Tua, Love, Mac, Jones at QB if the rest of the roster is solid, or do I pony it? I have no fear of playing discount quarterback. If I can win, you can win in so many other ways than super flex quarterback. We talk about it a lot because in my leagues, hyper QB value has become the trend, so I would expect that to show up most leagues eventually. But like discount quarterback is my favorite way of playing Superflex drafts. Zach doesn't even start 2 QBs. That's how in on it we are.
This is a one quarterback league, so like.
Oh wow! I didn't even realize. Sorry, I said it and I didn't realize. You should not be rostering that many quarterbacks.
Yeah, and if you can get up into one of the top 5 or 6 without giving up the proverbial farm, without giving up too much, then fine. But like you don't need to have a name value quarterback.
It's a nice little edge you might find in a 1 quarterback league that Zach points out a lot. So if it works for you, remember Zach because he's the one who suggested it. But it's not like you have to have a top 5 quarterback. No, not at all. No.
See if you can trade.
That's why it's a small edge because most people aren't interested in it.
See if you can. You can trade Love and Mac Jones for again Kirk Cousins or Daniel Jones or that. Like, see if you can do that, and then you're fine. You have a top 12 quarterback. You have Tua. You have 2 top 12 quarterbacks. You just play the one that's
you don't even need them.
Yeah. You're feeling good about it.
Yeah, 1 QB. Go with the name. 1. James Martin, what do you all think of Calvin Ridley's value? I think we've reached that point that and I don't like to do this. I really don't. But like at the end of the season, Zach and Russ were both on here talking about how by the time point season gets here, he's going to be back inside the top 24. People are going to be talking about him and say, make sure you get Calvin Ridley. At which point, it'll be too late because you have to pay for it. Like in a season, he was in the top 36 minimum. Now, that's not to say in your league you would have gotten an easier trade because ADP doesn't reflect your league. The person in your league probably knew, but the window's definitely closed now to find value, right? He's probably well valued. I'm hearing the Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley debate a lot, and I think most ranks are going to put Kirk over Ridley. I would say Ridley has more upside than Kirk, but Kirk is more likely to do something just because it's been a while since we saw Ridley, and you never know what happens when you shake the rest off or try to shake the rest off. I think he's going to be pretty good, though, and I do think he has more upside. With those type of assets, a Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, I'm more likely to just play for the upside, to be fair. But I would want the value to be on the Kirk side. That's how I get Ridley. And right now, I think that's less. I don't think that's going to happen in most leagues. I think that even if not Ridley being over him.
Yeah. And to your
how
question,
do I value him?
Yeah, James, I think he's probably a late first right now. I think he's going in that same range as Quentin Johnston and Zay Flowers.
And it's probably too high. Even if it works out, that's probably too high at this point. Even if
he's going at wide receiver 35. If it works out, you win. But
yeah. I'm lagging again. I've got nothing open, I swear to God. Mr. Moore, evening, gentlemen. 12 team, 1 QB, PPR start 7. Team consists of Hurts, Howell, Brees, Pollard, Gibbs, Rashad White, DK. It's a good team. AJ Brown, Ayuk, Bateman, Ferguson, Laporta started this build last season. You see, builds don't have to take time. Like 1 year out and your team looks thick. That's a maximum time frame you should be trying to turn things around. Always be trying to compete, right? I like I would say you're a contender, yeah.
Contender, but you could even consolidate a little bit more or add a tight end because I think that's where you're lacking. I think maybe I would look at like Rashad White and Ayuk and see if I could get a real one of the top, Kittle, Kelsey, depending on and Andrews, like one of those tight ends. But
sorry, I'm closing down ancillary apps like Dropbox and stuff, trying to speed up. X-Brain, nice. Will you guys mock draft a 10-team Dynasty league right now? No. But not for players, for who you would love to play in a league with who maybe you haven't played with before or once or twice. I have never played with Leo Pasiga to Zach's list earlier. I quite like to do that.
I Scott Fishbowled with Leo, and I Scott Fishbowled with Leo, and that was intense. Ryan McDowell would be my 101. I've never played in a league with Ryan McDowell.
Ooh.
I've played in Scott Fish leagues. I've played in John Bosch leagues. But when Ryan asked me to be in one of his leagues, I didn't have the bandwidth to add another league because I keep my leagues to like a very, very low number. I'm in 5, so I don't play in very many leagues. And Ryan asked, and I was like, oh man, like I absolutely would love to, but I can't. So he would be my my 101 would be Ryan, and I would get smoked, and I would enjoy every minute of it.
Tell you what, I'm in a league with Matt Price, and he's busy smoking. It's a DLF podcast. So everyone on it is a jackass who makes a podcast thinking they know everything and they talk about everything. Matt Price is busy literally just smoking a lot of this and making it look easy. So.
Price is good, yeah.
J Mike, beautiful shirts tonight, fellas. Much love. Yeah. I swear I've got nothing. Jesse, hi guys. What are your thoughts on trading Olave for Dotson and a 20? No, Olave should be.
I'd rather have Olave
tier above. I was talking to Skylar, the FF Buffalo, on the podcast recently, and he seemed to have him closer. And to me, it's quantum. The difference between a Olave rookie season and a Dotson rookie season is good, but probably nothing. To that guy probably is a top 12 dynasty asset for the next 5 years. Outside of injury and New Orleans sucks, so no, a second is not of me, and a 25 first is too far out to start considering.
Yeah,
so even with both, no, it's pretty easily loving. The Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase rule in Dynasty, most people are going to have a similar rule for Wilson and Olave until further notice. Like, we're going to have to see negative things before they stop being the hot new young wide receivers who did something. Ash Moser, 12-team PPR, 1.5 tight end, time in premium. Rode my receivers to a ship last year. Congrats. Chase, Lamb, Higgins, pretty cool. Supported by Burrow, Dak. I think they probably helped. Brees. That was unfortunate. JK Dobbins. My only tight end of note is commit. And the window is still open. Yeah, that was rough. And should I trade it, write it out, or trade and make a strength tight end? So should he make a move with tight end? Yes, I'd say it's a weakness of your roster now. I'm struggling to see exactly what I would move to try to do that outside of trading first, because I think I'm competitive and therefore I'd try and get Travis Kelce. But yeah, I think you should try and make moves at tight end. But if you're going competitive, you're going for one of those few tight ends. Darren Waller might be the only one who's relatively low, who might be worth taking a low swing at, or you're trading a first for Kelce, and you're hoping the person who has Kelce is really bad for the rest of his roster, so they're interested in that, or is really bad at Dynasty, so they think Kelce's just worth a first. Commit and a first for Kelce isn't a terrible offer, I guess, but it's pretty terrible. But you could try that kind of rep. Because I can't see any of these players. I'm not you can trade any of them. You can trade anyone, but I'm not out on any of them. I don't see anyone that's likely to be overvalued on maybe Lamb. But no, not really. No. Lamb and Higgins, but I'd rather just keep them if I have to. So you're probably trading your first and adding commit and taking a shot at Kelce. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's a. And if you can't make a deal, Komet's fine. He's probably top 12. He's fine.
That's the thing. We take shots at trying to get a rookie that becomes Pat Fairmouth, not to creep on the hype train, or become someone else likes. Mark Andrews, frankly, further back in the day, or becomes even Tyler Higbee. You're taking these deeper shots in the hopes of
even
getting
Kittle.
Something. Or you go get the premium guys, which means you're paying for something. That's kind of the way I think, on average, we play the position. There's not a lot of maybe I'll go for commit last year. Terrible decision to pay up for the potential breakout of a tight end. That's just always no. I'm either buying in before the potential breakout hype begins, or I'm going for the guy who's definitely it already. Kelce, Andrews, Kittle. Did I skip one?
Any suggestions on
preparing for a rookie draft that is only 5 rounds and that start right after the preseason ends? Oh, so you're going to get
only round 5. So they
even have to do. That's great.
Well, no. So they've done rounds 1 through 4. And then round 5 happens right after the preseason end.
So you get to see the nice.
Yeah. So I would pay attention to the preseason buzz. I would listen for names. I would also go back and listen to, say, episode 238 and 239 of the Dynasty Dummies podcast.
Find the deeper names. Yeah.
Which is the B side of a committee. So running backs part 3 and the catch these hands, catch all episode. Like, I would go back and like listen to those, because those are some of the names that you may be interested back there.
Trying to think of anything else. I mean, I'd approach it the same way I do every draft. In the 5th round, you get a little bit more information. So you're trying to grab those running backs who got hype or got a path to opportunity because the depth chart opened up in one way or the other. Trying to think of anything else that could be. I mean, no, I probably still approach it the exact same way we normally describe it. Sorry. All we got is what Zach said. Ash, 12-team PPR, 1.510 in premium. Roma, we definitely did this one.
Right? Just did that one, yep.
Zach, dropping Mike Evans reminds me of dropping Mike Evans reminds me of drafting AJ Brown in the 14th round of a startup, then cutting him a couple weeks before his breakout for some random vet I didn't even start. Yeah.
Look, we all do really, really bad things when we start, because we don't know. Like, you just and that's part of the kind of the journey is. And it's what makes Dynasty fun, is you're learning. And I assume, Grant, that's why you're here with us. And honestly, Peter and I are always learning more about this game and better ways to approach the game, even now. And so, like, to me, it's a kind of continual growth. And the cool thing is, like, the game isn't static. So, like, the NFL changes, and the way the NFL approaches things change, which means that the things that score points in our game change, which means that, you know, that you're never done kind of learning and growing. And so, like, yeah, we, like you and I, Grant, we both did some really dumb things when we started. We'll probably continue to do some really dumb things, but we can always grow and learn from them, which is kind of the beauty of it.
In ESPN League, and this season I had been all about acquiring David Johnson. Like, that was my thing. Like, I really liked Andre Ellington, I think his name was, who was ahead of him. And I'd liked him the previous year. His value had gone up. But I was all about hunting David Johnson. I'd done my research. I knew I needed the running back. I loved David Johnson. And so I made a lot of trades to get him on my team. But I was playing in an ESPN league, which had a limited bench. I've only got like 4 or 5 bench spots in that league. And I needed to start a kicker. And this was really early on in my fantasy playing days. And I needed to fill my starting roster. And I couldn't find anyone to trade because he'd done nothing for the first 8 weeks. It was Andre Ellington being meh. And I needed a kicker. So I was like, I'll drop him just before the games lock. And pick up a kicker and play him, and that's the week David Johnson became David Johnson. I did not get it back on. Yeah,
no, because then the fantasy football is going.
The reason that one sticks with me,
David Johnson,
is I'm like, I knew this deeper running back. Like, I loved him, and it was early enough. I thought I could predict things, so I was all in. And I knew it was a bad move to drop him, but I was like, the chances of him doing something specifically this week, like, I'm not that unlucky. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Feels bad. Stephen White, what QBs do you think should be attainable for a projected late 24 first in a 12-team Superflex league? Not many. But the ones you don't want, mostly. I have Mahomes and Levis. Okay, I see why you need, when you think you need a second one. We could probably make a list off ADP, but I don't want to make my stream crash again. Off the top of my head, probably get Mac Jones. In fact, you can definitely get Mac Jones. Jordan Love, even lower, so we'll put him on the list. Right, Tannehill. Russell Wilson would probably be your first target, eventually. That's who I'm going to go with. Like, there's a lot you could probably get for a projected late first of a team that, you know, its quarterback sucks, so they're not particularly interested. They might be more interested in the first, but Russell Wilson would be where I'd look.
Yeah, so Sam Howell and and Ritter are. Yeah, I mean, again, like if you're talking a late first, like those are the guys that you're going to end up with. Like you could probably get Bailey Zappi for less than that, and I think there's a good chance that Bailey Zappi starts at some point this year.
But then you're not getting a definite start. So yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. I would try and hope the Russell Wilson owner is the biggest hater.
I do the same thing that we talked about earlier, where if you can go get Gardner Minshew, fine. Like that's an interesting one. If you can get Tannehill, then like that. Like it's that type of. I mean, I don't know. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be good. But like at least then you know, like if you have Tannehill and Levis, you know you have a starter.
Yeah, true.
But
again, to Zach's point, honestly consider if you don't just want to start another position rather than pay a first for those 12 points. But yeah, those are the kind of quarterbacks. And the reason I say Wilson, you probably shouldn't get him for a first, but you might, and that's then you're getting more than those 12. Hopefully, I really think you should outscore that group.
Float something out now for Brock Purdy before he comes back, because he's coming back and he's probably going to be starting early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this conversation, like Russ and Rocky disagreed with me. I was on Trade Addicts about, I don't know, a month and a half ago, and they were talking about Trey Lance, and I said, Brock Purdy, they did the surgery. There were two options of how to do the surgery, and they did the surgery the way that brings him back quicker, and he should be pretty close to ready by the season. And they're talking about him throwing already. So and again, before you see that, before it becomes big news, like Purdy may be somebody that you might be able to steal. Not that he's great, like he's a mid-range quarterback, but he is a mid-range quarterback that you could possibly acquire.
You're getting what you get.
That's it.
JKS, welcome back. Thanks, guys, for making me feel a little better about what I have. No, you're good, man. Seriously, I meant it. And my wide receivers, however, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Thomas, Jahan Dotson, Gallup, Lazard, and Jalen Hyatt. And he's got Ramondre as a running back. I would say Ramondre is a pretty good trade target, like we just said, like Zach just said. Like you could start shopping him around to improve your team. But you got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like you didn't do terrible in your first Dynasty draft. If you caught the first fourth round top 12 breakout that we've seen in a while, you did pretty good. You did fine. And Michael Thomas has got upside. I think Dotson and Ramondre are two biggest. Let's see what we can get going to improve your roster for the long term here.
And Dalvin Cook, when he's traded, there's going to be a hype. So JK, I usually go first names, but we don't have this. So JK, I'm going to call you JK. You got Dobbins rostered, so we're going to go with JK. So JK, when Dalvin Cook gets traded, there's going to be a flood of information about that, which means there's going to be a sell window. So you need to be ready for that now. So when it happens, you can pounce, because I like to call these micro markets. They don't last very long, because eventually, like, you're going to get that big influx. It's going to be a whole bunch of hype. And then people are going to realize that Dalvin Cook is still an older running back, and that they don't actually want to roster Dalvin Cook. But there's going to be that window where you may be able to get a first for him. You may be able to sell Dalvin Cook and a second and get a first. You may be able to put Dalvin Cook and a first and go get an actual running back that you want. You may be able to get a Jahmyr Gibbs. You may be able to get a Barkley. You may be able to get even a Josh Jacobs. That type of move. But you're going to have to move fast, and you're going to have to know that it's coming. It's probably coming this week. Like, it's, again, June 1st, post June 1st is when they can cut him. They'd rather trade him. So, be ready.
There you go. Good luck, man. And come back anytime. First time watching you guys, but extremely thankful for your thoughts. And that's an important point since you're the first here. We'll point out they are just thoughts.
Yes.
Like if you don't agree or you don't want to do it, you do not do it. I mean, it's Dynasty. Have fun. We can offer opinions, and if we get it right and you disagree, like, learn from it. Don't think we were right and you were wrong. Think, oh, there was something maybe you can learn from, because we get stuff wrong all the time.
Absolutely.
We believe, but we try and keep track, learn what we can, and pass it on, and you can make your own decisions. Like, it's just thoughts. We're just here trying to have fun in Dynasty together. So I really appreciate you checking us out. But we definitely don't have we're not trying to we know all the answers. Just first off, that's the first thing you should know. We don't have all the answers. We don't think anyone does. Shimmy, best QB value stash for the future.
Probably O'Connell, but O'Connell, it's probably O'Connell, but the chances of any of them actually doing anything is almost nothing.
The only one I have some recognition of who Jake Hayner is.
Was it because of the calendar? The calendar photos?
Oh, yeah, he was putting that. Yeah, that's probably why. No, he had an okay-ish profile, but I don't know how QB rookie profile works, so don't believe me too hard.
I mean, at least he's only...
Zach's right. It's like...
He's only behind Baker Mayfield. Like, Toon has a chance to start a little bit this year. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think, ended up in Cleveland, so he's probably not playing, but he's the type of backup that would be nice in Cleveland, because you got a running quarterback in Watson, a little bit of a running. He's not like super running, but mobile.
I just wanted to point out, it's not a bad question, because this is how you end up with Brock Purdy, and because you ask a question that doesn't happen a lot, and you're getting them from almost nothing before the hype train starts. But it doesn't happen a lot, and there's not a lot that helps us out with figuring out who Brock Purdy is. That's what we're saying. So take a shot, for sure, but I don't have a lot of great... Jake Hayner is the only one who stood out in his rookie profile, the tiniest bit, but I wouldn't put too much weight on it.
So I have O'Connell on a roster, and I have Clayton Tune on a roster, and that's it out of those guys. So, and again, that's not that I don't know anything that any more than what you know about them, other than I watched a little bit, and that's where I'm looking. O'Connell, the Raiders kind of made a move to go get him in the fourth, whatever. Like,
tell you what, I'm fading fast tonight, guys, and I got to write an article, so I might skim read the next few. Sorry, I have never done that before, but I'm out here struggling. All right,
you look good,
Brian Ford.
You look good.
Thank you. Well, it's the shirt. The shirt does it. I just recorded a show about some veteran running backs. I like Monty as a value. It's a good one. When looking at ranks, ADP, trades, co-hosts disagree. What do you think? I think people are... Well, that's the question, though. It's what for? Especially when you're talking about a value. I would imagine that David Montgomery trades at a pretty good value in most leagues. And probably drafts there as well. So, yeah, I think I'm on board for you. I don't think he's going to be Jamal Williams, not because he's not as good as Jamal Williams. It's just because you can't really predict that many rushing touchdowns. But I think he's going to have that role, and he's a good running back. So I think, yeah, he's going to score points,
I think, Brian, you did yourself a disservice by not shouting out your Dynasty Fever pod. Brian and I have a running DM, and I really enjoy him, and so shout yourself out a little bit. But in terms of Montgomery, yes, value, but that's because people have kind of thrown him on the scrap heap.
Yeah,
but to Peter's point, man, they went out and spent a top 12 pick on Jahmyr Gibbs. They're going to use him. It's going to be, to me, it's going to be a similar, it's going to be Swift and Jamal Williams.
Yeah. Again, the other part of it is they might be overestimating his role if they don't have a good estimate. So what's the estimate? To be pedantic, but DeAndre Swift, and he's been really good, despite how suddenly he's not valued at all because he was traded away. But yeah, that's my expectation, and that's pretty good. And that leads to a Jamal Williams Swift kind of estimate. Yeah, there you go. Fever Pods, awesome, by the way. Everyone should listen. Drew, 12-team, half-point PPR, no premium. I don't have a private DM with Brian, by the way. I'm not No, just gonna say. Drew, 12-team half PPR, no premium, start 10. Would you trade Deontay a 24 second and a 25 third on a big barrel of who cares? For the 24 first? Yeah. I like Deontay. I think it's probably worth a first and not valued there often. But in Dynasty, yeah, it's probably the first.
Yeah, and especially, again, you're looking at them. They have a bottom end team. Yeah, I probably would. I probably would. And if you're a top 2 or 3 team, you didn't get there with Deontay Johnson last year because Deontay Johnson he didn't score a touchdown last year. So I don't mind getting out for that. I think that's pretty good value. So
getting a first is it's pretty good too. 1 QB league. What is the best running back I can get using Dylan plus picks without using a first in the deal? So Dylan a second or 2 seconds. Best running back, the best running back you can get is Bijan Robinson, but it's obviously not for that.
Well, you said without using a first in the deal, you'd have to use like 3, so that tracks.
3, you have to add the value of Bijan Robinson. Again, sometimes I don't think the right way to answer some of these questions. I have running backs I think are at pretty good values that I would try and get, but it depends on what your league mates think. I think if you had Dylan and a second for Aaron Jones feels weird, but I'd rather have Aaron Jones, and I don't care to give up a second to do that. Derrick Henry. Who else did we mention? We mentioned Damian Pierce.
I would be after Javonte Williams and Akers. Those are the two, the 2 injury they Akers fell. They still haven't had the full.
It's the list we said earlier.
Yep. So that's where I'm
Henry if they're devaluing Aaron Jones. Although it's really hard to think of a Dylan plus trade for Jones, but second, sure. Damian Pierce I would put on that list. And Zach's absolutely right. Javonte Williams should be on there as well. And you probably have to add several seconds to try and get Javonte Williams. I'm assuming he hasn't fallen that badly. 12 teams who flex PPR, 3 wide receivers, 3 flex spots. Stroud or Burks and Hollywood. Superflex, Burks and Hollywood. It's probably Stroud. Yeah, Stroud and Superflex. Just in a vacuum.
Yeah, the 3 wide receiver thing gives me just a touch of pause. Again, I think Hollywood has a good season. And
3 flexes as well.
Burks is kind of poised. And again, I like Stroud. I think it's really close. You're right. It's probably the quarterback because it's super flex.
Yeah.
But the format gives me it's very close.
I could see getting over it, but yeah.
If I could get somebody to throw in a second on the Burks Hollywood side, I'd take that side. I would.
That's how.
And I hate seconds. Yeah. So
I don't even like. Zach William price check in Superflex 12 team start 15 deep rosters of 35 no taxi. You're asking me? I would give you a mid second for Zach Wilson, and no one's going to do that trade. I'm not paying more than a second for Zach Wilson. I don't believe
Zach Wilson price check.
Never did.
I would have to ask my youngest son what he's got for change in his piggy bank, and that's where we're at.
There you go. D Magoon, 10 teams who flex PPR start 11. Love and Christian Watson or Dotson and the 106. Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Dotson, 106. So you're not getting a quarterback in return. That's my only hang up here. But it's Jordan Love. So Watson, Gritton, Dotson. Love or the 106? I think it's the 106. And a super flex?
So value-wise, you're paying too much. I would rather have the 106.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I think people value Watson.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Or Dotson higher than I do. And people value Jordan Love higher.
I think Watson is higher than Dotson. But I'd have the 106 over Love, so significantly. So I think it's the 106 side. It's savvy trade as well. Trading away a quarterback without getting one in return, guaranteed. I like making the moves when you can do them, to be honest. The next question's coming. Oh, there it is. Tannehill did offer him a 24 and 25 second. You did try that offer and didn't get it. That sucks. Because that's probably bottom tier. But yeah, late first for Tannehill if you just need a starting quarterback is fine. Again, the option of not having one is there in a superflex. You can start other players and try and get that 12 points, or at least not bottoming out. But Tannehill, it's fine. I tried a 24 first, I guess. Ross P on a 12-team PPR league. Which wide receiver 3 on a team would you invest in? Of any of Boyd, Zay Jones, none. Boyd's the only one I'm likely to roster because he's done it before. I think Zay Jones is probably the smart answer. I mean, they did add Calvin Ridley, who's definitely better, and Zay Jones was a weird breakout. But I think he probably has better pass to opportunity on that depth chart than Boyd does on his. But Boyd is the one I roster.
Yeah.
Or is there any others? QB3. I roster a lot of Tim Patrick. If that counts. No?
How can you do that and still like Marvin Mims, Peter? How can you do that?
I don't know. But
Marvin Mims,
I find it within myself.
Marvin Mims is there to just snatch the Tim Patrick role.
That's IR, you mean? He's there to snatch the IR spot?
Yeah, that's it.
Sorry, I can't think of any wide receiver 3s off the top of my head. I tell you what, someone in my Discord mentioned that Tyler Johnson's been signed somewhere, and I appreciated them for it because my Discord is forever owning me, and I love him for it. But there you go, Tyler Johnson. Why not? One more ride for he should have been. But no, Justin Ross, Tyler Boyd to your list. I think Zay Jones is a smart one, but I have a lot of expectation. No. Again, because of the way I think targets work, I don't think wide receiver specifically is next man up. So it's just players I like that might have been held behind, or I think of somewhat undervalued. And there's a lot of wide receiver 3s on the list. They kind of prove it or they don't, hopefully, over time. Puff Pass Kick. Really enjoying the show tonight, fellas. Well, thank you. Are you saying that you didn't enjoy the other shows? Because I need confirmation on that. Curious what you think James Cook's value is in a 14-team superflex. I feel like not quite a 24 first, but possibly more than a 24 second. I think you're right. It's probably somewhere in between there. I would sell for a second, though. I have been out. I am out. I'm happy to stay there. So far, it's working. So I will undersell it. Like, if I don't think a thing is likely to happen, I will bleed a little bit of the points may happen, and therefore I get it because I kind of want to follow my opinions where they're strong. I think James Cook's he's going to be receiving running back for Buffalo was way oversold. And so far I'm just following the confirmation bias of that having worked out to be true. Not necessarily that I was right, because reality can just be wrong, even though that's what they were planning to do. It just didn't work out that way. But yeah, I would sell for a second. But you're probably right. The actual line, what you should try for, is probably between the two. So you're trying for I don't know, who's your favorite deep tight end or backup running back plus a second? That's
so
where
the problem to me with
Justin Ross
but the problem to me with James Cook is the same problem with Damian Pierce and the same problem with Isaiah Pacheco is if you're trying to sell them now, you're too late, because the value of those running backs that you don't expect are when they're producing in the season and everyone goes, oh, PFF did these 6 tweets on, whoever, or JJ Zachariason said, like, in the preseason, JJ Zachariason was like, I like Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco comes out and does great, and then everyone retweets JJ Zachariason saying he liked Isaiah Pacheco, and then all of a sudden JJ has to do a podcast where he's like, guys,
I liked him back then.
So that to me is the problem with James Cook. Like, James Cook is fine, but they also just went and added Damian Harris specifically because James Cook is not a guy that they think can take that entire role.
Instead, try to trade him for the pick that could be a good running back who has something like that value arc this year. So, try and get Bigsby. And that's on the low end. Again, Bigsby's probably lowest drafted from that tier. Try and get the Roschon Johnson pick. It's a sneaky way of trying to do what you're trying to do. Those running backs who could do that. But it's a pick, and so people don't associate it with the player. EJD, if Levis is starting by the end of the year and looks decent, could you sell him for 2 first and a 2 QB? It depends how decent. If he looks pretty decent, yes. If not, it's probably gonna. Right now, he's like an early second, late first. So I think 2 first is a fine expectation. But again, don't draft him because of what he might become. It's what he might become based on what you get him for right now. And right now, his value is pretty good for that.
Yeah, and the only problem with that is we, as a community, not necessarily us, although we're guilty of it in certain circumstances too, have this real trouble with anchor bias. Where if the community doesn't like Will Levis, it's going to take an awful lot for them to come around on Will Levis. It's the Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones just had a top 12 quarterback season. He's still going as like QB 18 or 19.
I don't like it.
ADP.
I didn't like him as a rookie. I didn't like him for the first few seasons. I felt real smart fading him. Last year happened, and I'm drafting him in startups because I just have to admit, like, that was more than I ever expected, and that's where we're at.
How long did it take you to come around on Josh Allen? Because I know that the first season, you and I were like, "Hey, see, he wasn't very good," and then the next
first
season,
year I was out, but the time when he improved, I was like, "Oh fudge,
yeah,
I was wrong."
But it took
again the speed is everything. Yeah. Like, you got to be able to go, I was stupid quicker than everyone else. Sorry, Karen. I was definitely wrong way too long on Josh Allen, but again, I stand by the process of how I got there. Like, that jump, really freaking rare. Like, Josh Allen's the only one to have made it, so I'm happy. I think the process was working, but man, that value jump when the unlikely happens is wow, shoot, Josh Allen, something else. And again, that, to your point, that's the upside of even at 102 or 101, Anthony Richardson. That's why I have to keep going. Yeah, I get it, because if it pays off, there's no better payoff than a Josh Allen payoff, because the Josh Allen payoff don't stop. I might be tired.
I'm clipping that one. That one is going to show up again.
That's natural too. Just I could.
I'll do that, and then splice in the you like that, and then it's just going to be perfect.
Nice, 2 different shirts. I like it. I don't think I have anything extra. Like, the upside's decent. It's not Josh Allen, and it's not Levis. I guess let's find a comparable. Tannehill, was he ever worth 2 firsts? I mean, after he was traded to Tennessee, and then after he had a top 12 season,
maybe.
It's really difficult to say who is worth 2. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, so even having a great top 12, and Tannehill had a very different arc. Obviously, that wasn't year 1, but like,
and he was also a
Dynasty does have a hard time adjusting, which is why speed can help. So 2 first, yes, it's possible. But you're going to find people have a hard time coming back on their, for good reasons. We've been burnt too often. I was wrong. Oh, shit. I was right. And so we're cautious. We're slow to turn the boat, as it were. And which is why trying to be a speedboat, turning faster than the tugboat that is, I don't know why I'm going down this boat metaphor, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. And I'm tired. And Dean Magoon, I was thinking the same thing. Overpay for the 106, but I can afford. Yeah, it's rare that you can give up. Yeah, I like those moves, man. Good job. Just to confirm, yes, I really enjoyed every episode, Peter. Then what did you mean when you say you enjoyed this one? Like, what was wrong with the other one? No, I got you. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you checking us out. And yeah, thanks for hanging with us tonight. We'll see you every Wednesday at 9:30. Talk about Dynasty.
Pete, look over there.
All right.